flying when we come in with this swing.
Welcome back to Network 10's coverage of the Lexus Melbourne Cup, and this is very elegant. Sprinting past Incentivise at the 200-metre mark, and the speed that she finished this race, Gator, after 3,200 metres with 57 kilos on her back was incredible. The first mare to win our greatest race since Makybe Diva, and the 14th in history, and it was a masterful ride from James McDonald.
It was just that. I mean, that was the awkward part about this race going in for that horse. What can they do from that awkward draw to get in there sort of midfield with cover? We actually turned to each other mid-race and said he's in a great spot on her, but she just travelled sweetly. Something that's been the bane of her early existence as an athlete, Michelle. She couldn't harness that energy. Once she learnt that under the tutelage of Chris Waller and his amazing stable, and that's the real, very elegant 10th Group 1, so strong to the line run, super fast time. Look at the gaps behind them. These first few were dominant over the rest of the field.
Phenomenal, what a mare. 10 Group 1s, and she's by a stallion who was siring for $600, which is just amazing. We've got Incentivise who ran second, who was bought for $33,000, and this is what our great race does. It gives every horse a chance, and it really lifts the spirits, and just can't believe how dominant she was in that last final 200 metres.
At one stage, Zed, her sire, was covering Clydesdales in New Zealand because he couldn't get a proper book. He is an absolute freak now. And look at that beautiful picture of James McDonald riding out very elegant. Cheska, it was amazing this year's Melbourne Cup. Some people said it may have been a weak edition. I think the history books will tell otherwise. Very elegant, beating Incentivise and Spanish Mission.
And they'll probably tell us that the classiest horse in the field actually won. Go back 3 starts and she was winning a Group 1 weight for age over a mile. So here she is, not much later, winning the Melbourne Cup over 2. And look, she got too far back, finished really well that time, but she had the wide barrier, she had more weight. There were quite a few negatives for her to overcome. But not that many horses got into the race. The first 4 were up in front part of the field for most of the way. J-Mac must have done something pretty impressive from barrier 19 to get her into a good spot. But what really had me James McDonald in a Melbourne Cup, and is it really the first winner for Chris Waller? Yeah, the red hat crossing behind, that was an inspired move. We actually had Spanish Mission also going right down to the rail, and it was interesting seeing what the jockeys decided, because you had Incentivise actually sticking wide. And there were a few horses that pressed forward. He probably found himself a little bit too far forward because he was then committed to being right up on the front end, whereas J-Mac was able to get her back, get a bit of cover. Like the guys said, as a younger horse, she was quite free. I remember back in 2018 she ran in the Wakeful and in the Oaks, and you could tell she had a lot of ability, but she did everything wrong. She often gets her head up, she tries to over-race, but here in the straight he's got her in a good spot, he's got cover. Her head's up a little bit, but she's going to settle quite soon. So you've got Incentivise pressing forward, you had Floating Artist up there. Spanish Mission's not that far behind as well. So essentially she's the only one that makes up a good amount of ground from behind, and you want to see exactly where she's done that from. She was quite wide a lot of the way. She's probably just in front of mid-division in those red colours, 3 wide there. She's tracking Spanish Mission in front of her. She's got a lot of the main chances in her sights, but it's the way she was able to come with a great turn of foot when it mattered under that weight, 57 kilos, don't forget. It's almost unheard of in recent years to be winning with that kind of weight. She's only the 14th mare in the history of the race to win, and it was an inspired ride. And for Chris Waller, he's known for being brilliant with stayers, but he must have been thinking, when on earth am I ever going to win a Melbourne Cup? Because I've got good horses, I keep trying. And I imagine he didn't think this was going to be the one to do it for him. There was a question mark as to whether she was going to run in the race. They decided to send her to the race because she'd been working really well at home. For James McDonald, he was going to ride away he goes in the race, who picked up a tendon injury. just shows, doesn't it, how these things work themselves out. So here she goes, she's peeling on the outside of Spanish Mission. They're closing together. She's showing him that she's got a lot more speed. She's able to make actually the ones in front of her look quite pedestrian as she picks up Incentivise and goes past him and then is able to kick away. She's definitely going to go down as one of the really good winners of this race.
One placing with Who Shot the Barman, and it was that quick decision, Michelle, at the start from James McDonald, and to get cover so that she didn't over-race, that probably ultimately won in the race.
That's exactly right, and he actually jumped from barrier 18 with the scratching, which has never been won by it from in the Melbourne Cup. So it's actually history in itself in that. To the back of Spanish Mission, who ran third, who was able to take him into the race beautifully, and it was just masterful and felt really emotional for him because he is like our greatest rider in Australia at the moment, and for him to take home the big one, it's something special.
Yep, there is no doubt about that. The good news too is that all horses completed the course safe and sound. It was a really well-run Melbourne Cup in warm conditions. All horses are back safe and sound. There is plenty more to come on this Cup day. Look at the owners. There they are, celebrating with the most sought-after trophy in Australian sport. We'll be back with more action. The Cup on 10.
Oh, yes!